Hey guys, welcome to the Being Beautifully Honest podcast and channel. And whichever platforms you're listening to this on, I want to let you know I really do appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. And if you are a subscriber, I do thank you for being a subscriber. But if you are not subscribed yet, please do go ahead and subscribe. And if you're listening to this on YouTube while you're at it, go ahead and hit that like button. It's like walking into the room and hitting that light switch. We just want to go ahead and brighten up the place. So let's get into this conversation / reality chat / just real life. And honestly, I didn't have any plans on talking about this again today, but I was listening to a video, watching / listening to a video on the Kempire YouTube channel, and this discussion about Melody and Martellholt's custody case and the battle and things that have been revealed from the court documents, it's the talk of a lot of people's channels as of late. And I just previously did a conversation where I discussed a live panel discussion that was had on Sherelle's World channel. And then I was listening to this video from Kempire. This actually was from this weekend, but what he did was he chopped it up, and it's a portion of that live, which I do appreciate when people do that, because rarely do I get to join into a lot of live discussions just simply because of my schedule and operating business and doing things that I'm doing, where I just don't really get a chance to do that. So I listen to things at my own leisure, but when they chop it up, it just makes it a bit easier. That's why I try to keep my conversations as brief as possible. But at any rate, I'm going back to this because I was speaking previously about how some people on the panel discussion and even in the chat of the Sherelle's World recent discussion about this situation were calling out Melody and of course Martell, but calling out Melody based on the court documents. And the court documents, the judge was saying that the father has made great strides to be an active parent, but the mother has made things more difficult. And I am not a millimeter, so let me preface this by saying that. I've said this before, I've said this on multiple occasions, and me not being a millimeter doesn't mean that I'm against her. It just means I'm for right, and I don't just blindly follow anyone and call myself a stan of anybody. That's just how I operate my life, because I feel that people can get in that fine line of idolization and worship, and you just have to really be careful with that, because we're all human beings. I don't idolize anybody. I may admire, but I don't idolize. But I preface that by saying I know that there are some people who don't see it for Melody at all, and they think that she's sneaky. They think that she has a nasty attitude. I've even seen some comments where people are like, well, nobody really liked her until she started going through this divorce with Martell, and then it made people start to like her. It could be true for some people. I don't know. But when it comes to the family court system, and not just family court, but courts all around, just for the most part, with the judicial system, we know that a lot of justice is not really justice for a lot of people. A lot of people don't get justice at all. And then some people, what they think is justice, it's not really justice. And that's on the criminal side as well as the civil side, and definitely when it comes down to the family courts. And a lot of these judges are not going to, I understand it because they don't know any of these people. They're not going to be on one side more than the other. Most of them are not. And most of them, because they have so many cases that come before them, they are just looking at things that are presented to them and basing things a lot of times on their opinion versus just the flat out law. Because when it comes to family court, there's so many feelings involved. It's the dissolution of marriages. It is the breaking up of homes. It is deciding who's going to have full custody. Are they going to have joint custody? Is there going to be visitation? Should this person get supervised visitation? There's a lot that is involved when it comes to that. And we've seen in the family court system, when it comes to the the man and them having the money, a lot of times it goes more in their favor than it goes in the other. And there are situations where some people will make it seem like it doesn't, but it does, because I know recently Tyrese was crying and whining about the judge in his case being a racist and that it's not fair. His ex-wife doesn't deserve as much as they awarded to her because she makes good money on her own. But trust and believe, the amount that was awarded to his ex-wife for child support is only a percentage. People are looking at the full amount that was awarded based on his own actions, because he decided to go against the ruling, only pay a portion of what was ordered, and then go on live video and call the judge a racist. That's going to piss the judge off even more. So when it comes to situations like Melody and Martell's case, and people just looking at it from a bird's eye view, basing it on, well, the judge said that she was being difficult, but Martell was making great strides. Trust and believe that the judge, just giving my opinion, is not basing any of this on his or her, because I don't know if the judge is a female or a male, personal feelings about any of these people, because the judge doesn't know any of these people personally. But sometimes when it comes to these cases, there are judges that know attorneys. A lot of times they know each other. I never worked in the family law system, but I was a legal assistant for 12 years in my former life. And when I say former life, I just revised some things in my life and I made a change and I shifted out of that field. It's an extremely stressful field. I don't wish what Melody or even Martell, but definitely the children, to go through any of this stuff, but ultimately it is because of Martell. And a lot of the things that Melody has done, it has been done because she has been trying her best to avoid having to deal with him, because he has been trying to control her, even though he and she are no longer married. So he's been trying to use the children to gain access to her, period. And so for people to call out Melody and say, well, yeah, the courts and the documents of the court filing said that she's been difficult and she hasn't been making the great strides to make the co-parenting work like the father has. But if you look at the show, and we know we can't judge everything based on the show because they don't show everything, but based on what we've seen, Martell is the one that really has been making things difficult. And him showing up, he called her, it was last season, he called her, this was after the Destin trip that she invited him to go on, by the way, but she didn't get any credit for that. I think that, and that's something I never would have done, but I think that was a great stride towards her trying to co-parent. Some people may say, oh, well, she was just doing that for the show. She did it. She did it. He didn't deserve to be around, and he really wasn't trying to make it about the family. When he would talk about things, it was about the marriage or things that they used to do as a couple with the children, not just the children, okay? So after that Destin trip, and Martell contacted Melody because he was supposed to be, what he said, coming by to pick up a bag for one of the kids, she was already pissed off because she found out that he told her personal business to his other kid's mom about her having COVID. And she didn't like that. Some people felt like, well, it was reasonable for him to do that because the other child is going to be around the other children. So he needed to make her aware of it so that there wouldn't be any cross-contamination and, preventing the other child from getting sick. I didn't think it was that big of a deal just in the grand scheme of things, but because of who Martell is, I could understand why she was upset with him. He could have just let her know first, or ask her, is it okay that I let the other person, the other kid's mom, know that you have been exposed, so she knows. And then she could have said, yeah, it's okay, or no. She probably wouldn't have minded if he had brought it up to her, but because of Martell being who he is and as selfish as he is, he's not going to think of it in that way. Well, listen, guys, I wouldn't just take the court rulings by the judge saying that Melody was being difficult at face value, because as we have seen, like I was just stating about that scene from the previous season, when he showed up, she showed up at the door, the front door. She was giving him the bag. He didn't want the bag. He had a bottle of wine. He wanted to come inside of the house. She wasn't going to let him in the house, and he got upset about it. And then he said, I don't need the bag. I don't want the bag. He wanted to come into the house, and she said, I'm not letting you in my house. And he's like, well, I let you in my home. It's the pettiness for me, and Melody trying to give him the child's bag, and he wouldn't take it. Like, this has affected her a lot. She has to, she cried about it in, I believe it was the second episode of this current season, to Nail, and saying that I never intended on not being around my children as much as I wanted to be because of what he has done and because of how he has destroyed this family and this marriage. Now I have to share custody of my children that I gave birth to. I don't think people are really seeing it in that way. They're just looking at the fact that this court ruling said that she has made it difficult and she has not made great strides to co-parent like he has. And it's bullcrap. Martell wants to use the children to gain access to Melody. Anything about her getting babysitters to watch the kids when she has the custody and he isn't with the kids, but she has stuff to do, that he wants her to contact him to see if he would like to take the kids. It's not about that. He wants to be able to know what's going on in her life, what she's doing, where she's going, who she's going with, who she's going to see, who she's doing. Those were questions that were asked that were revealed. He wanted to know who is she, if she's having sex during the times that she has the custody of the kids. What in the world does that have to do with the children? Because I'm quite sure that if she is not that type of person like he is, where he would just do a chick in the same room with the kids on the other side of the room. I'm just saying, I do not believe at face value that the judge is saying that she was being difficult. I believe that the court and the judge is just doing what they typically normally do. But if you listen to this video, and I'm going to put a link to it in the description box, listen to the entire video from Kempire's channel. I'm going to play a little clip of one of the callers who called in, who's going through a situation right now with family court. And it's just a huge reminder that just because things look a certain way doesn't mean that it is that way. And we have to be very careful about judging, especially when it comes to mothers who have custody of their children, and how dirty and vengeful some people can be when it comes to using the family court to be spiteful and to get back at somebody. And I truly believe that Martell was doing this to be spiteful and to get back at Melody, not because he's actually trying to gain full custody or wanting her to be a better, what he calls co-parent, when he's been making it difficult for her to be around him or just to even communicate with him.
With this whole custody stuff, I tried to kind of stay away from kind of learning about their custody battle because it is triggering for me personally. The end of I'm gonna try to make it quick. By the end of 2018, my daughter wanted to visit her nana, and she had not, on her dad's side, she hadn't seen them in a couple of months because of his missed visits and whatever. So I took her to visit them. This is summertime. And then basically, I've been fighting to get my daughter back ever since. They essentially stole my daughter, court assisted, kidnapped, basically. by filing like a court order and putting everything that you could think of in this court order, and just doing whatever they wanted to do. Basically, they had like my old landlord sign this paperwork that I should have signed, and that's how it defaulted to them getting. They asked for 63 days out of the year, leaving me 2 days, my day. And this was granted to them without me ever even knowing. So when I go to pick up my daughter, I can't find them. So when I found out everything, of course, like this, my daughter is all that I had, you know. And so I'm fighting this thing. I had 2 pro bono lawyers come on. They heard our story, and they came on and they dropped. Like the first one dropped before the first court date. So I had to go in. I had to represent myself. It was about an 8-month journey, and in that journey, it is the hardest journey of my life, fighting for my daughter. And what I learned about the court system, family court, is it's not about, it really isn't necessarily about, I won't say it's not about the best interest of the child. It's more so what looks good on paper, how you show up, and what that judge is going to kind of assess and believe for themselves. Because I showed up with truth. I showed up with receipts. And they printed whatever they wanted to print it in these court orders. So, you know, when you're reading these things and you're reading what's in these documents for Mel and Martell, you know, it's whatever they chose to put on that paperwork. It doesn't necessarily have to mean that it's true. When I say so much was printed, and so I'm like looking at it in hindsight now, I'm like, well, yes, they had to say everything that they could possibly say in order for a judge to allow an emergency ex parte order for them to seal my daughter. And then I've been fighting like hell to get her back unsuccessfully, and they've gotten away with everything. You know what I'm saying? And so for both of them, I'm sure it's hard, but just kind of seeing what has been played out as far as Martell's character and how low and how evil he can go, I'm sure it's incredibly hard. It has to be incredibly hard to go through. You know, Mel gets to see her children. I haven't seen my daughter in 3 years. And, you know, having my son, it was definitely unplanned, and I thought she would think I moved on with my life without her. My daughter's so smart. I've taught her a lot of different things. You know, if anything ever happens, you know, this is what we do. Stranger danger. You know, she downloaded any type of electronic they gave her. She was 10 at the time. She downloaded a phone, and that's how she contacted me. And so when I said all that to say that any custody battle, it's so hard because it brings out the absolute worst in both parties. You know what I'm saying? I came with truth, but I left in rage. In rage. You know what I'm saying? These are your children. And when you know, like, your heart is good, and this is I've tried to work with you guys, and once they got her, the venom and the evil that was exposed, like, it's a lot to this thing. You know what I'm saying?
So one of the things that I want to point out, so what you're basically saying is that not everything is as it appears what you see in court documents.
Absolutely not. You know what I'm saying? Because now what happens is it pushes you so far up against the wall. Like I said, with that situation, now you're feeling like, well, do I need to say everything? Because if Martell is coming out and he's, you know, allegedly saying these things like, oh, well, she hit me and she did this, and you're bringing up arguments that we had. Now you're like, well, do I need to bring up this? It brings out the worst in each party. And then you're using whatever you can to weaponize against one another. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the times what happens is the judge don't know neither one of you. And all they see is a fight happening. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what boils down to it, you know. And I came there, that first time I came with truth, and after that I left with rage. You know what I'm saying? Now, what do I need to do? You know?
Yeah. All right. I'm going to pause it right there, and I have the full video link in the description so that you can listen to the entirety, because the first caller was calling in and she was stating about the court documents that she sent to Kempire. And she was pretty much saying, you know, I'm not on anybody's side. I'm on Jesus' side. That's what she was saying. But she was pointing out the fact that the court documents were stating that Melody was making things difficult. So this caller that I just played a portion of her call, I 100% agree with her, because this is what I've been saying. It is easy to just, as a judge, not even easy, but I will say it's not in depth for a judge, because they're not going to go back into the past about all of the devious, deceitful things that Martell has done that, yeah, Melody may have either taken him back or accepted or whatever. But for him to go dirty in the courts, she's responding to it. So in essence, she has to, you know, come with the big guns as well, not literally, but figuratively, and do what she has had to do to defend herself, as well as try to protect herself and to protect her children, because he's doing all of this for spite. He does not want custody of those kids. I never believed that he actually wanted custody of the kids, because if he actually really did, he would be making real strides to try to make a real living and a household for his family, because the way it looks, the way it appears, it looks like he lives with his mom. And I'm just saying, like, how old is he? I know that this is a different day and time now where things are much more expensive and kids aren't necessarily moving out of their parents' home at the age of 18, or maybe even after college. They may be back home for a while they're trying to get themselves together. But at the age that he is, where he has himself put himself in this position, he's downgraded his lifestyle because he wanted to be out here screwing around in the streets because he wanted a girlfriend, like he said. You know, it's just absolutely ridiculous. But the courts are not looking at all of that. And the previous caller to this caller that I played a portion of her call, she was stating about court records talking about they have both been possibly violent to each other. And when I was listening to it, I didn't really feel any way about it, because we've seen on the show, some people may call that violence, where Melody was throwing laundry at him. And this was during an argument where he was being himself and being selfish and, you know, pretty much making things about his dick and getting satisfied sexually and getting pleasured, versus being a man, being a husband, being a father. Like, it's just so tiring. I'm quite sure for Melody to be in those situations over and over again, also dealing with having children, 4 children at that, dealing with, postpartum depression. I'm quite sure she dealt with it. I didn't really hear her speaking about it, but I cannot even imagine having 4 kids. I've only had 1 in my lifetime, and that was enough for me to say I'm done. I'm good. Sorry, hubby. That's it. You know, that's all, folks. I'm just saying, I can only imagine. I'm not saying that it makes it right for her to hit him or whatever, but if this little girl that he was screwing was calling her phone and being dismissive, being disrespectful, saying put Martell on the phone and all other kinds of stuff like that, I'm not saying it is okay, but I understand if she was swinging at him. So if they're using that to try to say that she's been violent, then hey, it is what it is. I'm just not here for people that are trying to make Melody out to be the victim, not the villain, and make Martell out to be the victim in this court battle, because he is the one that causes. She has been trying to just, for the sake of peace, deal with this man by, when she got divorced, He was supposed to get counseling. He was supposed to give her money back that he stole out of the account. He never did that. She let it go. She wanted to feel like they were in a better place, so she invited him to go on the destined trip. He came along. He was nasty after that. You know, during the trip, he wanted to make it about the marriage and where did he go wrong, and thinking that he could, you know, try to win her back, and she's not here for it. This has been the works of Martell, and the court and the judge is neutral because they really have nothing to do with it, but they're just trying to do their job. And in all actuality, they don't really want to spend a whole lot of time on this. So that's why they're just looking at things based on what has been presented to them to go from there. And the judge, not having a dog in the fight, is not looking at Melody as, you know, this poor victim who's been victimized by this, what we would say is a narcissist who was extremely disrespectful to his household, to his children, to his ex-wife, having a full-on affair with another person, having a child while they were married, and coming home and still sleeping with his wife, which is extremely dangerous. Like, what if she had gotten an STD? Who's to say that she hasn't? It's none of our business, but I'm just saying, that's just not safe at all. And now to make her out to be the villain in the situation, I just wanted to play a clip from that video so that you can listen to it, just so you know that a lot of times, especially in family court, because it is so personal, it can become downright dirty in the court and the judge. And if there were a jury to be involved in these situations, they're neutral. It's not their fault. The judge is just trying to do its job. But unfortunately, they don't have a lot of time to dig into the depths and the details of the past and how they got up to this point. They're just trying to make a decision in what is going to be in the best interest of the children. But trust and believe, the children see everything that's going on, and you reap what you sow. Martell, he's sowing a lot of dirty seeds, and he's going to reap a harvest from it. You just can't live life this way and think that you're going to get away. My mom has a saying, you may get by, but you never get away. And I do believe that, although in the now, in the present, it doesn't seem that way, and it may not even feel that way. And I know that them being on this reality show, to be honest with you, may not even help too much with this custody situation, because this is all playing out in real time on social media, in real life, as well as what has already been filmed and is airing on television. It probably is not in the best interest of the children to be filmed anymore for the show as well as on social media. But again, Martell is the cause of it. I don't know, guys. I just really wanted to talk about that because my heart really goes out to the young lady who called in about her court situation and battle in family court with her daughter's father's family taking the child. That happens. It does happen. She's not the first one that it's happened to, and she probably will not be the last. It's extremely unfortunate to hear about stories like that, but even with those situations, the courts don't really move swiftly in those things. She said she hasn't had her daughter for 3 years. 3 years. So with all that Melody is going through, she still has a lot to be grateful for and thankful for. I believe she is. And I believe she definitely did express that in her social media stories on Instagram, that she's happy with the outcome. But it's just sad that the aftermath of this now is people coming out to try to make it seem like Melody has been the one that has been difficult in the situation, and Martell is the one who's done his best to try to make this co-parenting situation work. When we do believe, who have eyes to see and ears to hear, we do believe that Martell is not telling the truth. It is not real. And he is really just doing this because he wants to have this into Melody's personal life. And he just wants to still have that connection by any means necessary. It's not good enough to just co-parent the kids. I feel, and I do believe that they said that the court has placed someone who's going to be an intermediary to deal with issues that it doesn't require the courts to get involved. And they need that because, to be honest with you, I don't even feel that at this point they should be forcing Melody to communicate with Martell. There probably should just be always that intermediary, because that way it will cut down on the opportunity for him to try to get into her ear, to try to tear her down, disparage her character. Like, he's known for that. We've seen him do it. We've heard about him doing it, and he has not changed. Oh my gosh. So guys, listen to the video from Kempire. Again, I have a link to that in the description box. Let me know your thoughts. I, again, just wanted to reiterate that I'm not saying that I'm coming for the courts or the judge. That's definitely not what I'm doing. That's not what we do over here. But I will say that we who are on the outside looking in, we have to be careful about just using that to say, well, the court said that Melody was difficult, so that means that she's been difficult. If you look at everything that we have had the opportunity to see, and 1 + 1 = 2, we know that if anyone has been difficult, it definitely has been Martell. He's made videos on social media where he's recorded the children disparaging their mom and trying to make himself out to be dad of the century. But this is all his doing. She didn't take him to court except to file for divorce. But when it comes to the kids, she was just trying to do everything for the sake of peace. And it's been several years and he's still not being peaceful. So guys, you let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much for subscribing. I'm Beth, and I'm just being beautifully honest. So until the next time, I just wanted to keep it brief, beautiful, and now I'm going to say bye.